I don't know if this is the original actually, but it does look rather old. Let's have a look what this says over here. Here with you, I just heard that. Who is it, Thomas? Here with you, I just heard that. Who is it, Thomas?
Oh.
That's quite dark actually. So this is quite a lot of Halifax's history right here. What you say? So today's video, we're at Beacon Hill in Halifax. So Beacon Hill is a 260 metre landmark overlooking the town of Halifax. Now Beacon Hill's got quite a history as you can see here, but today realistically we're looking at the death of Robert Thomas. Now after Thomas was executed in York, his body was brought here and hung in chains, it says. So the reason why I'm making this video is because some things that have happened in previous videos are related to this kind of place, if that makes sense. So I'm travelling from Littleborough to Beacon Hill and then Shibden Park. They're quite close next to each other more or less, but I'll just do two separate videos. So to give context to this video, it's more or less, it's led on from previous videos at a place called like the Smuggler's Pathway, which is in Littleborough. This place was like a secret highway for the Craggvale coiners. This was just near the King Bill actually, and they could move things secretly. So the Craggvale coiners they more or less clipped coins, and they had a massive criminal enterprise in the late 17th century and the early 18th century. So we'll make our way from Littleborough all the way to Halifax really on the 590 bus. Now the link to Littleborough is a place called the Smuggler's Pathway, is known as peddlers really, and that's how they more or less exchanged the coins or the silver more or less at that point. So we want to go to the point where Robert Thomas finally was left to rot really. What's going on, and welcome to another video. So this one's in Halifax. We're going to Shibden Hall actually on this one. There's another point as well which is close by that I want to go to, and it's something in one of my past videos. I'll explain all in a minute. So this will take us to Beacon Hill and Shibden Hall, like I mentioned. Not really strangers to Halifax, although I don't come here often. I've been here once before when I went to Hartley and Brickwork. But I used to work in Calderdale, so well, I know that's nothing to do with my YouTube channel. So it's a big, I won't say big, but it's a bit of an incline going up this hill. I did a video earlier on this year and it was called The Smuggler's Pathway, and this was to do with the Craggvale coiners. That network went right into Littleborough, which is the video I'm talking about. And it was I got a few names. One was Grace, one was Thomas,
There were other names too as well, but they're the more significant because them names match the Craggvale coiners, meaning Grace Hartley, who was married to David Hartley, and then Robert Thomas, who was probably David Hartley's right hand man. There were others too, like, but the reason why I'm telling you this is because Thomas, or Robert Thomas, made his presence known in one of the videos. I don't know if it's actually that way or not.
So what I'm talking about is a video that I made called the Peddler's Pathway, or the Smuggler's Pathway, I think it's called. I'll leave a link in the description. But this is where Thomas has made himself known a couple of times, or a guy called Thomas has. Also Grace as well.
Robert Thomas, one of the two men gibbeted on Beacon Hill. Here's his full story. Robert Thomas, the gibbeted man, the crime. On the 14th of November 1769, Excise Officer William Dayton was brutally murdered in Bullclose Lane, Halifax. He was investigating the Craggvale coiners, the gang led by David Hartley, who were clipping and counterfeiting gold coins across the Calder Valley. Dayton was beaten, stoned, and kicked to death. The men responsible, Robert Thomas and Matthew Normanton, were identified as the killers. David Hartley himself was hanged at York in April 1770 for coining, but not for the murder. That was Thomas and Normanton. The execution. Robert Thomas was hanged at York on the 6th of August 1774. His body was then brought back to Halifax, hung in chains on Beacon Hill, and positioned so his right arm pointed directly toward Bullclose Lane, the scene of the crime. A grim, deliberate warning to everyone in the valley. Matthew Normanton was finally caught later, hanged on the 15th of April 1775, and displayed alongside him on the hill. Why gibbeting? Hanging in chains was reserved for the worst crimes, murder, especially with malice or conspiracy. The body was left to rot in the iron cage, exposed to the elements and birds, as a terrifying public deterrent. It was said people would travel for miles to see them, and the coiner's power was broken forever.
Robert Thomas, his body was put on Beacon Hill to warn everybody, if this is what you do, this is what's going to happen to you. So, I don't know how long his body was left there. I thought it was David Hartley that was put on there, but it was Robert Thomas. And this is because they killed William Dayton, who was, shall we say, the sheriff of that time. And that's where I want to go to, is because I believe I've made contact with Thomas as he's coming in front of the camera when I was at Littleborough. And he said, "Whose party is it?" Well, that's what I said. And then this weird mist came in front of the camera and it said Thomas. So we're going to go to where his body was.
But obviously this is frame by frame, and this is the slowest that I can get it, so people can see what to look out for when I bring part 3 out.
Whose party was it? Did you dress
Thomas.
up? Thomas. Did you dress up? Yeah. Was there a swimming pool?
So without talking too much about the past, previous videos have brought me to this location, and here I'm just pointing out the way upwards as you cross the road here. Now I do get out of breath, so I'd rather just mute it and do a voiceover. So I don't really know where I'm going apart from following the signs, and that sign says go up this way and you get Shibden Hall and Beacon Hill. But I'm going to do Shibden Hall in a separate video, but I will show you the way if you've never been, or if you'd like to go to Beacon Hill. So just follow this path really, you can't go wrong. Just follow this path. If it veers off and the path's going another way, just follow the other way. Do not deviate from the path and you'll get there just fine.
I'm hoping you can see the leaves falling off the tree. This just marks it's the last, well, it's the end of summer really. So this is the last summer video. I think I started off summer videos at Pendle Hill. Obviously it's the end of the season now because Halloween's coming next. So it's always brutal filming at Halloween because it's like 6 weeks and filming every weekend. Anyway, I just thought I'd mention that it's the end of the summer now. So I'm sure you can see the leaves falling. Anyway, let's carry on. It's quite hard, this route actually. It's pretty difficult. I've had to stop and have a quick few minutes because it's quite steep. Anyway, we'll crack on. I bet it's really bad when it's icy here in winter. Now this route actually looks really old. Almost like an old pack horse route, but this would have been brutal for horses, I would have thought, if this is the case. There's a squirrel there, look.
So these are from Shibden Hall, and this is what usage looks like basically. This goes to show something has done miles, but they were well designed, so I've got no doubt these style went over that pathway.
So you can go that way, but I'm going to stick to the trail. In fact, I don't know if you can or not, but we'll just stick to the trailer.
So another voiceover is needed, and it's obviously because I'm out of breath. When you just get past this point, it's absolute brutal getting up that short, steep incline. And then you get to this point and it's not as bad. But one could imagine if, or when they brought his body up here, how they did it. If it's horse and cart, it's unlikely. I think that's too steep that other way. The way I've just come must have come in another way, but that is an old road that they would have used. But equally, I don't know, and what does it matter really? So this is a view of Halifax as you look around actually. I mean, it goes to show how high this actually is. You don't realise at the time until you see the view and how far you can actually see. But these are great views actually. It's very rewarding when you come up here. But this is my first time actually coming up here, and with the history of the Craggvale coin videos that I've done previously, I really feel like you had to come to this spot. Although I don't feel like it's complete, it's just part of a site that I wanted to see with doing content I'd previously made about the Craggvale coiners and where Robert Thomas's body finally was really. Now I wouldn't say he was laid to rest really if he was hung here in chains pointing in the direction of the death of William Dighton. Now, Robert Thomas had a friend called Isaac. I can't remember his second name now, but equally, I don't think Isaac ever got caught, or there's no record of him. Or I don't know he actually got caught. It was someone else that was next to Robert Thomas when he was hung in chains from here. Now, I'm sure you can just see it just coming into shot now, the actual... well, they call it Beacon Hill. I don't actually know what this is, and if it's... I'm sure it's the original still, but I don't actually know that for a fact.
I don't know if this is the original actually, but it does look rather old. Let's have a look what this says over here.
Here with you.
Here with you, I just heard that.
Here with you.
Here with you.
Here with you.
Here with you, I just heard that. Who is it, Thomas?
Oh.
That's quite dark actually. That's quite dark. That's quite dark, actually. So this is quite a lot of Halifax's history right here. What you say? What you say? The beacon. The beacon was one of the links in the national chain warning of the approach of Spanish Armada in 1588. It probably took the form of a fire on the ground, but by the mid-17th century, with a fix mounted on a pole, it was lit at least 2 other recorded occasions as a signal. It was lit in 1688 at the time of landing of William... what's that say? William of Orange in 1745. To give warning of an approaching Scottish army under Bonnie Prince Charlie. In the event, they reached no closer than Manchester. Since then, the beacon has been lit to celebrate joyful occasions at the end of the Crimean War, 1856, at the end of the Boer War, 1902, both World Wars, 1990 and 1945, in addition to the Royal Jubilees, including those of Queen Victoria, King George and Queen Elizabeth II. Formerly known as Cliff Hill at 260 metres. During the 18th century, the bodies of executed men, including the Craggvale corners, were suspended in chains at the top of the hill as a warning and a moral lesson for the local population.
Shit.
If you're on this frequency, you can hear my voice. Let me listen to yours.
So this next voice is a female, which was captured in Littleborough, which is the part that I was talking about before. So I just want you to compare the voices.
Let's go to the bend. I can hear your voice. That then. Is that you, Grace?
So this is where Grace and David are buried. There's obviously, it is a family grave also, but on there is Grace's name and David's name. This is where they're buried in Heptonstall Church. But for me, the legend still lives on. And what's interesting really is they're not isolated to one specific area. Grace had heavy ties to Littleborough, and so did Robert Thomas, and this is so they could operate messages back and forward and obviously exchange whatever they needed to as far as silver and coins goes.
So that was the tower really. It might be worth coming back and, you know, doing an EVP session at night, whatever, but I just wanted to come up here and have a look really, because the experience that I mentioned before with Robert Thomas that he had in Littleborough, and there's reasons why he would be there and it makes perfect sense. Anyway, now it's Shibden Hall now, which is, it's not there anywhere. It's somewhere else, so we're going to have a look at Shibden Hall. Let's see if we can go inside.
So I'm not sure how long Robert Thomas's body was left there, but obviously it would have succumbed to decomposing really in the end. Now what's interesting, I found this building on the way up here, so I don't actually know what that has to do with it, or if it's got anything to do with it, to be honest. But equally I did want to come to like the final, it's not the final resting place, but it's where his final resting place for his body was, which was on Beacon Hill. So I'm just going to show you some footage from a previous investigation that I did at the start of the year, which just shows you a little bit more from the Littleborough point of view. So the only thing I can tell you really is from the investigations that I've done from the Littleborough point of view, the evidence does suggest that this is still haunted really by the Craggvale coiners, because that's what they identify themselves as. It was obviously numerous different answers that related to the match really from the with the names and the descriptions really of the EVPs and the recordings that we're getting. So as I mentioned, there was a party, and they said there was like 5 of them or whatever. But this is a picture I got on Garcia in Littleborough, which is more or less describing the Craggvale coiners at the good times. And the 5 people I can probably identify, really, to be honest. The 3 obviously are quite easy: Robert Thomas, Grace Hartley, David Hartley. So the other one is Isaac Hartley, which was the brother of David Hartley as well. So I think another one was Matthew Normanton, which was an accomplice of Robert Thomas, really. But I'm not sure on the last one because it's arguable, really, between a couple of people. But I'll just finish the video on these investigation pictures from Littleborough over the time periods I spent in and around the Smuggler's Pathway, really, where they exchanged the silver, like a little secret highway where the Craggvale coiners could more or less go undetected. And this really helped the success, really, of what they accomplished. But obviously it leaves these little smoke figures that like to come out in the dark and communicate, which is more or less what's left of the energy.